Hey, everybody. I'm just going to sort of set the table and then let this amazing group of people who are speaking after me, go ahead and drill down a little bit in more detail on some of the things that I'm going to bring up today. And I do want to say that the people who are coming after, and particularly Frank Sherry and Jana Murguia, have been such courageous warriors in this battle. But the most important battle is still left to be fought, I think, and I look forward to fighting it with them this year. What I'm going to lay out is, quickly, we're using all this new technology here that we've invested in at NDN, I'm going to go through this very quickly as a little bit of background on why we think, and sort of set the table, and sort of why we think comprehensive should pass this year. And for those who don't know and those watching at home, right, I mean, we use this term comprehensive immigration reform, and we think everybody knows what it means. But what it means is that it's a legislative strategy to fix our terribly broken immigration system. And it's had three key planks to it, right? That it's going to toughen up on the border and on employers who illegally employ undocumented workers. It's going to better manage future flow, and it's going to create legal status and a path to citizenship for the undocumented that are already here. Now, obviously, there are various forms of this, but this is sort of the thread that has run through the various iterations of comprehensive. Next is that what we also know, and you'll hear much more about this in a few minutes, is that a clear majority of Americans support this basic strategy of comprehensive immigration reform. They consider it a top-tier issue. They're looking for action. And in poll after poll, because this issue has been polled by virtually everybody again and again and again and again over the last 3 years, there's a mountain of data about the public attitude towards comprehensive, is that few blame the immigrants. A majority are accepting the basic framework of comprehensive. And in fact, and I think this is going to be very important during the coming debate, support, when you ask specifically, should the undocumented become legal workers or citizens, support in the American public goes up for citizenship. They want them to become part of the American fabric if they're going to stay. This is an important distinction. And about 15 to 20% of the country is adamantly against the undocumented staying in the country and are for what we call expulsion. And those supporters, those 15 to 20%, as we've learned, are pretty loud. They're fairly well organized, largely through right-wing talk radio, and they've got a lot of allies, particularly in the Republican Party in Washington. Comprehensive immigration reform, contrary to, I think, the popular belief, has been among the most bipartisan pieces of legislation we've seen in Washington in this entire decade. It has been supported by one of the largest and most diverse coalitions that we've seen in Washington in a highly partisan age. And it also passed a Republican Senate. Right? I mean, if this was such a contentious issue, how did this get through a Republican Senate in 2006 with 62 votes? And it was certainly one of the only pieces of legislation in the last 10 years supported by President Bush, John McCain, Nancy Pelosi, and Harry Reid. So, did I forget to move ahead? Oops, sorry about that. So, this is the first time I've done this PowerPoint, so hold with me here for a second. So with a majority of Americans supporting comprehensive immigration reform and a deep and broad bipartisan coalition behind it, this is no third rail. It is a mainstream, common-sense, pragmatic effort to solve a vexing national problem. And let me give you a few more reasons why I think comprehensive should pass this year. The administration and Congress are going to continue to grow weary of fighting immigration proxy wars on issue after issue as this year grinds on. We've already seen it with S-CHIP and with the stimulus that the anti-immigrant forces in Congress are going to continue to try to muck up the gears of legislation around the issue of the undocumented. And I think everyone by the end of the year is going to want to get this off the table. It will be the key that unlocks progress, I think, on much of the domestic agenda in Washington. Next is the pressure in Washington from state and local officials, particularly in key battleground states, critical to the next election, will continue to mount. It will also, and I think this is going to be a much bigger issue than people really understand, it's going to help depoliticize an already highly contentious census and reapportionment process that just took down already the potential Commerce Secretary just in the last few weeks. And I think something we'll be talking more about today and in other meetings is that as the economy worsens that will remove a trapdoor under the minimum wage. The Democrats passed the minimum wage as one of their first acts in 2007. The idea being that in tough economic times, by raising the minimum wage for those at the bottom, that it would help remove the downward pressure on wages for all American workers. That's the theory behind the minimum wage. The problem is that we left out 5% of the workforce. So 5% of the American workforce today, 1 out of 20 workers, is not protected by American law, isn't covered by minimum wage, can't unionize, and their capacity for exploitation, the capacity for exploitation of those workers is growing as the economy gets worse and the capacity for those undocumented immigrants to go home and find good work is diminished. So if we want to complete the job that began in 2007 by extending the minimum wage across the country, passing comprehensive will be a critical part of that strategy. As the year unfolds, we also believe that comprehensive is going to be increasingly seen as part of a broader strategy to calm what is an increasingly dangerous border region in the United States. Did I forget to go ahead? Sorry. And I got to keep on this. And that's the current. The current immigration. Sorry about this. The current immigration detention system was also not designed to handle its current caseload, and has quickly become a legal and moral disgrace. I think this is something I think we in this community need to do a better job talking about. And finally, support of comprehensive has become a litmus test for Hispanics. This is something you're going to hear a lot more about in the future presentations. And in this age of reconciliation, passing comprehensive immigration reform, I think, will take the air out of the balloon of some of the most shocking and unacceptable public displays of racism in America today. I think this is a particular moral challenge for the new president in order to take this on this year, given his argument that we are all one. I think that also means the undocumented. So we have some advice. Our advice to the Democrats is you promised. Right? In recent years, every Democratic leader, from President Obama to Nancy Pelosi to Harry Reid, has said repeatedly in English and in Spanish that we are going to do this right away and get it done. Well, now is the time. It will also help the Democrats lock in the gains that they've made with Hispanics in recent years and show, I think more importantly, show the broader electorate that they have what it takes to tackle the tough problems of this new century, something that I think will be the defining challenge for Barack Obama. Our advice to the Republicans is a little different. Right? We advise them that they should sue for peace with the Latino community. If they help us pass comprehensive this year and renounce their extraordinary campaign to demonize immigrants and Hispanics in this country, it will give them a fighting chance to get back in the game with the fastest growing part of the American electorate. If they don't, I think they're looking at minority status for at least another generation, as we saw play out in California in previous times. So our conclusion today is that it's in the best interest of both political parties in the nation to pass comprehensive this year, right now, and to fix our terribly broken immigration system. There is a pragmatic plan ready to go with broad bipartisan support and a deep and broad coalition. And frankly, there's simply no compelling reason not to do it. I mean, there really is. If you analyze all the arguments being made by the other side, I think all of them are specious and don't actually hold water compared to the argument that we're going to be making today. So I want to conclude by saying, Mr. President, we are fired up and ready to go. Let's do it. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm very excited to be part of what is going to be a great presentation today. And I turn it back to Andres to introduce the rest of the panel. Thank you.